on this one here. Okay. All right. Well, hello, everybody. I'm here today talking with Tom Kerr, who works for Buffalo Audubon Society. And so, Tom, if you can just start out by telling us a little bit about yourself, just basically what's your job title, and tell us just a little bit about what you do.
I'm the naturalist at Buffalo Audubon Society. I work at Beaver Meadow. I am part of the education staff. So I do our programming. I lead programs and tours and kids programs. In the summer, I do day camp. When we have summers, we're allowed to do day camp. A lot of what I do is lead birding tours. I do bird watching tours throughout Western New York for Buffalo Audubon. And we work in the nature center, and there's a lot to do to keep the nature center running with our staff. So
I'll throw you an off script question. What's your favorite bird?
sure. um so I get asked that a lot, so I had to come up with one that's a favorite. It's hard. There's so many birds, and there's so many amazing birds and every single bird does something that's incredible. But my favorite is eastern kingbird. So it was one of the first ones when I was starting into bird watching that I saw. I saw it flying on a baseball diamond, and I didn't have a field guide or my binoculars with me, and I had to remember that in my head all day until I got home and I could look it up. This black bird with a white belly and a white band on its tail, and so and then kind of flipping through the field guide, it's like, wow, there's a lot of birds, and I wonder how many I could see, and then took off from there. So
A red start, American red start for me. Very cool. So, can you?
that
Oh,
that's a good one too.
yeah, that was definitely my spark bird. I saw one displaying, and I was hooked. So, can you just describe for us what's a typical day like in your job, if there is such a thing?
I don't know if there is such a thing. A typical day, involves a lot of program prep, contacting teachers in schools, people who we would work with to do programs, planning programs, advertising our programs. A lot of work goes into advertising our programs to make sure that the work we put into doing the program, someone's there to enjoy the program. And we have animals in the nature center, educational animals that we use, so I'm taking care of those. In the reptile room with turtles and snakes, and our educational owl Zelda, the screech owl.
So,
So a typical day involves a lot of different things.
yeah, I think it's definitely one of those jobs where there's probably not so much a typical day. I think one thing people
Yeah.
might be curious about is how much of your time do you spend really inside? Sounds like there's a lot of prep that goes into things versus actually out doing programs and being face to face with the public.
Uh, I mean, right now, it's not a lot of time outside. It's a lot of prep, figuring out how to navigate through this pandemic and make sure that we're still doing programs, but how do we do them safe? It's really hard to do virtual programming outdoors, so we're trying to find ways to do that, but also keep our regular program going. But there are times a year where I'm outdoors more, where I'm doing programs more. Usually, spring is incredibly busy with schools, with spring migration and birding programs. And then summer, I'm outside almost constantly doing summer camp. And fall comes as a little bit of a break. Even in a normal year, we don't have as many school programs, but we do have a big festival coming up. We usually have our Enchanted Forest Festival, which is a big fundraising festival we have at Beaver Meadow. This year we don't have it in the same way. We have a smaller version of it called the Enchanted Trick or Treat. So, but we're getting ready for that, and it's a lot of getting ready for things, and then doing your programs, and then they hopefully go well, and you're spending your time outside enjoying that. But and it depends too. We do indoor programs too when the weather starts getting colder and people want to be inside, which is tough right now. So we have to figure out how to do that right.
I imagine COVID has definitely thrown a little wrinkle into everything that you do.
Yeah, definitely for sure. It's hard too, and also now Beaver Meadow is busier than I've ever seen it with people coming
Really?
through, which is great. It's just hard to find a way to interact with these people, with all these people, is what we have to try to do
Yeah.
right now. I mean, people are looking for things to do that are outside, and kind of distant from everybody else. So Beaver Meadow is, I think, one of our challenges has been that we're far away from the population center of Buffalo. So a lot of those people would go to Tift, Rhinestone, which are great places, and I certainly go to them when um, when I'm looking for some place to go. Um, but I think it's forced more people to get out of the city area, and so we're definitely seeing more and more people at Beaver Meadow.
Yeah, I think that's one good thing about COVID is it's kind of forced people to reconnect with nature just a little bit, to get outside and
Yeah,
find something to do. And I guess that's probably a good side effect. So, how did you get to where you are? If you can just give us a little idea of kind of what was your path in terms of like schooling experiences that helped you
sure.
get to this job.
I went to. it took me a while to figure out what I wanted to do when I was in college, and I'm sure lots of people go through that. But once I figured out, I transferred to SUNY ESF in Syracuse, and even there, I was doing like an ecology program, and somewhere along the line, I was just like, I don't know if I want to like sit in a lab where I'm counting things and looking down a dissecting microscope all day long. Well, I like doing that. I just didn't think I could do that my whole life. Um, so I transferred into the natural history and interpretation program, and that was great. I loved it. School turned into something that was, instead of felt like work, it felt like it was fun, and I was loving it. I loved the teachers and the professors that were doing the programs, and then the people I was with in those programs. And right out of college, I got a job at the New York City Urban Park Rangers. So I moved to New York City, and I spent 5 years as a park ranger, and that was really great. It's just living in New York City can be tough when you're looking to start a family. So when my son was born, my wife and I both looked for jobs back home in Buffalo. We were both from Buffalo, and I was very lucky to get a job with Buffalo Audubon, where I taught. I spent the first 2 years working there teaching a program called For the Birds, which I still teach to two schools. Hopefully, when this is over, we'll get back in the classrooms with them. Um, that was an 8-week program where I would visit the school, 8 times during the spring, and we would do a different lesson relating to birds, come up with a habitat project at the end, and it's been really great. So, and after that, kind of became only part of my job. I've been working at Beaver Meadow now, so since about 2011, I've been summer of 2011. I took the job with Buffalo Audubon.
Cool. Well, you made my day hearing that For the Birds is still running.
Right.
Anybody who doesn't know who's watching this video, I used to work for Audubon. Tom actually came in, his position replaced mine when I left to go get my PhD. And so I started For the Birds, and so I'm really excited to hear that it's still running. That makes
We,
me happy.
we have it in two schools. One is in Newport, which you probably worked with Newport.
That was the first
And
school
it's
we
a
had.
whole, and I'm sure it's some of the original teachers still, but a lot of the teachers have retired, and it's a different group. But that school is great, and I can't wait to get back there. And we were doing another program that we got a grant from Wyoming County to do a program with Wyoming County schools. And when that was over, I said to the teacher, I was like, "Hey, we have this other program. If you'd like to, have us run that." And you know, they picked up on it, so we've been doing it in Perry too. So I go all the way up to Lewiston for one, and I go all the way out to Perry, New York, eat my lunch in Letchworth while I'm waiting.
That's not a
So
bad place to eat lunch. So do you
no.
find for your job you get to travel a lot, like locally to a lot of different places, or is most of what you do kind of centered right around the nature center at Beaver Meadow?
Well, with COVID right now, it's been mostly around the nature center. But we're getting back to doing outdoor programs. So I've been doing, this is the time of year where I'm going to be doing more programs centered around the Niagara River with duck migration and gull migration. And we have a festival coming up, hopefully in February, the Birds on the Niagara Festival. Hopefully things will change enough by then that we can have an actual live festival and it won't be all virtual. But we've been doing outdoor programming. I did a walk at Buckhorn Island where we walked from one end to the other. It's 2 miles each way, wearing masks the whole way. But it worked. We did it, and we saw a lot of birds. So hopefully the next few months we'll see an improvement.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, when I moved back to Buffalo, I bought a Prius, a hybrid Prius, and I just traded that in for my second one. So I do put a lot of miles driving all over Buffalo doing these programs, or driving all over Western New York. So, I mean, we live in such a great region too. We have so much habitat diversity and great places to see birds and wildlife and other great things. So
Absolutely.
I do get to explore.
That's a good perk, I think. So,
Yeah.
what would you say is the best part of your job, and what is the worst part of your job?
The best part of my job is when I see I'm working with kids and I see like a real connection that they've made, and or I see something that they're gonna remember. Uh, you know, we we've been putting up a lot of birdhouses at Newport. And it's still one of my best memories of my time at Audubon. That we were putting up all these birdhouses for bluebirds and tree swallows, and it's created sort of this this huge habitat back there where there's just you know tree swallows and bluebirds zipping around constantly. And I went to the craft store and I bought like a pack of like white craft feathers, and I brought them to the day we were going to go outside with these birds, and I started throwing the white feathers up into the air. And the tree swallows will use them for their nest, and they'll grab them out of the air. So we watched these tree swallows do their courtship by grabbing these white flowers. And this third grade girl turns to me and she says, "That was the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in my life." And I was like, "Yeah, that is pretty great, right?" It made me feel really good. I hope that's something that kid remembers forever. Things like that where someone tells you what I saw was just so amazing. And that's what I try to you know help people experience. The worst part of my job, you deal with a lot of bad news and how with climate change and species decline and birds declining, and that can be tough and that can wear you down, and you just have to keep plugging along. You can't give up. You can't be the one who gives up when you hear that we're not hitting our goals for climate change, and then the new climate report comes out from Audubon and shows how many species are in decline. You have to get to work, and sometimes that can be really tough. Sometimes I've got a long drive home to think about things, and sometimes those long drives home can be kind of sad. Sitting in my car alone, thinking about what am I going to do? What can I do to help? It seems so impossible sometimes, but you can't be the one that gives up. I have to be the one that everyone turns to. What are we going to do? And you know, you just do everything you can. That's what I tell people. You do everything you can, and everyone makes a difference. And you just have to keep that mentality. It's true. It's true that mentality is 100% true. But it is easy to fall into feelings that we're losing, and things like that. But there's always hope, and we have to keep hope, and that can be hard sometimes.
I think that's really good insight and advice for anybody in any aspect of the conservation field. So
The
yeah,
conservation field you get a group of us together, we can all just it can be a lot of fun and it can be sad too. So
Yeah,
you got to keep positive.
absolutely. So, where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Um, I feel like I've got a lot to do here at Audubon. Um, there are things we'd like to grow. It's an organization that isn't going through a lot of change right now, so we'd like to see that change for positive. That we grow the organization and we have more staff working alongside with us, helping us accomplish our goals. Um, more members, more programs. So I don't know. 5 years seems so far away, but the last 8 or 9 years have gone by so fast. It's hard. It's hard to come up with like 5 years. I'm worried about. I'm trying to think what I'm going to do in 5 days.
I'm right there with you.
So
Yeah,
yeah.
for sure.
So hopefully doing more in person stuff than over Zoom.
Yeah, right. I think we're all hoping for that
Right.
for sure. So, what advice do you have for a student who might be interested in pursuing a career like yours?
One thing I hear a lot from people is they'll say like, "Oh, it's so great you work with animals," and I'm like, "Yeah, I do work with animals, but I work with people. Like, this is a people job. Like, I spend so much time with kids and adults and teenagers, and it's just you have to like people. You can't be like one of those people who's just like, oh, you know, I can't stand people. Like, people are the worst. You that's that's tough in this job. Um, I definitely have like my time where I'm like in the reptile room cleaning turtle cages, and I'm just like, oh, turtles are the best. They're so quiet and they don't complain.
For sure.
But it's a people job. Even my last job when I was a park ranger, people were like, "Oh, you're outside in nature working with animals all the time," and I said, "I'm a park ranger. This is a people job. Like, I'm working with people all the time. So work on people skills because you've probably already got your animal skills. Work with people skills."
I think that's very, very good advice. Um, well, thank you. I'm going to stop the recording here.